Have you ever stopped to think about how history's darkest moments shape entire nations? One of these moments, Oliver Cromwell's brutal conquest of Ireland in the mid-17th century, stands out as a deeply traumatic and transformative event. It was not just about war or land, it was about the systematic dismantling of a people, their culture, and their identity. Before we unravel this horrifying tale, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you love history and untold stories, you're in for a deep, gripping dive. Now let's set the stage. The year is 1649. Ireland is a land already scarred by decades of war and political unrest, and the wounds from the Irish Confederate Wars are still fresh. Into this chaos marches Oliver Cromwell, the English parliamentarian leader who saw Ireland not as a neighbor, but as a rebellious land that needed to be crushed. His aim wasn't just to win, it was to devastate, to punish, and to subdue Ireland so thoroughly that it would never rise against English rule again. Cromwell's campaign began with an iron fist. His army unleashed a reign of terror, most infamously at Drogheda and Wexford. At Drogheda, Cromwell's forces massacred nearly the entire population, soldiers and civilians alike. The town's walls fell, and what followed was sheer carnage. Men, women, and even priests were slaughtered without mercy. Cromwell justified this as a righteous judgment, but it was nothing less than a deliberate act of terror meant to instill fear across Ireland. Wexford faced a similar fate, with the town burned, its people butchered, and its survivors left to spread tales of horror. But the battlefield was only the beginning. What came next was a campaign of systematic oppression. Cromwell and his forces enacted policies that stripped Irish Catholics of their land, their livelihoods, and their freedom. Tens of thousands were rounded up, ordinary men, women, and even children, and forced onto ships bound for the Caribbean. Imagine being torn from your home, your family, and your country, crammed into the hold of a ship like cargo, and transported thousands of miles to an unknown land. These Irish people weren't just exiled. They were sold as slaves to work on sugar and tobacco plantations in Barbados, Montserrat, and other colonies. Many died from disease and the brutal conditions. Those who survived lived lives of unimaginable hardship, far from the green fields of their homeland. And then came the proclamation of 1654, which solidified Cromwell's vision for Ireland. To hell or to Connacht was not just a slogan, it was a death sentence. Irish families who managed to escape slavery were ordered to relocate west of the River Shannon to the rocky, barren lands of Connacht. The region was desolate, with poor soil and little infrastructure, incapable of sustaining large populations. But this wasn't a mistake, it was intentional. By confining the Irish to such inhospitable lands, Cromwell's regime ensured that they would either starve, succumb to disease, or abandon all hope of resisting English rule. Entire villages were emptied as families embarked on forced marches westward, leaving behind everything they knew. The journey itself was harrowing, with many dying along the way. Those who made it faced a grim reality. The land couldn't support them, and famine soon followed. For many, Connacht was the hell, in Cromwell's infamous phrase, a place of suffering and despair. What makes this chapter of history even more haunting is its long-lasting impact. Cromwell's conquest wasn't just a military campaign. It was an attempt to erase Irish culture and replace it with English dominance. The land confiscations, the deaths, the forced deportations, all of it left a legacy of trauma that Ireland would carry for generations. It was a calculated act of ethnic cleansing, and its echoes are still felt in Ireland today. This story isn't just about Cromwell's brutality, it's about resilience. Despite the unimaginable suffering the Irish people endured, they preserved their culture, their language, and their identity, even in the face of systematic oppression. Their spirit couldn't be broken, and that is what makes this history not just tragic, but inspiring. Make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into history's untold stories. Let me know in the comments what moments in history you'd like to learn about next.